Welcome back to Global TV Talk Show. We're joined today at this moment with Kim Congdon, and thank you very much. She is in the LA area, and she has been a guest on our program several times. So today's main topic is about high achievers and how to manage them or how to motivate them. And first of all, a description. In your view, what is a high achiever,
Yeah,
or who is a high achiever?
here's the thing, Ed, that's a great question because it comes in all packages, right? I mean, there's the programs where you go and you try and hire, from the best schools, high flying right from the start, right? And those are high achievers. And then there's people that they kind of just needed a break and they end up being super high achievers, right? And then there's people that you just can see in them that they push in a good way themselves, right? And they ask for feedback and they achieve and they just want more and more. I mean, so there's all kinds of high achievers, but I think the thing that comes together for everyone, regardless of their background, is that real desire to learn and contribute and achieve, right? Makes sense, achieve, high achiever. But it can come in many ways. And typically, the biggest challenge with high achievers is getting them early enough in their careers to make sure that if they don't already have the emotional awareness and the empathy for others who maybe aren't quite as a high flyer as them, to get to build that muscle.
So a high achiever is someone who is successful. I'm reading this. This is from Harvard. A high achiever is someone who is successful in their work or studies, usually as a result of their own efforts. They are often willing to go the extra mile to make things happen, and they take great pleasure in reaching their goals.
That's good. That's a great definition.
Yeah.
Hey, Christian's here.
Hello,
Hey, hi
Christian.
Kim. Hi Ed.
Hi,
Good to
Christian.
see
Welcome,
You.
you.
welcome. We started a little early because we were here. And
Apparently.
and one of our guests, Atika from Sweden, is not going to be able to join us,
Oh,
but there could be another person from London joining us, but I'll know when she arrives, if.
Yeah.
So welcome,
If not,
Christian.
it'll be the power trio.
thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
great, great.
Are we
So
recording?
we are recording, yeah. So
Okay.
be
So I
careful
gotta behave.
what you
Yeah, okay.
say, yeah. And pretty soon the AI is going to jump into here and start
Oh
taking
God.
notes. So, so Christian, would you call yourself a high achiever in your own mind?
Yes.
That's great. Now, were you born that way, or how did you become that way?
Um, I would say I probably born is, I mean, don't take it too literally, but here's the, and I'm dead serious actually. You're laughing, I know, but I've always been extremely one-sided. So I'm very good at languages and literature and talking to people and, the arts, as it were, in that sense. I'm very bad at anything STEM. And I have a slight disability that I was actually born with, which makes it very challenging for me to do sports. So I'm a high achiever in that sense. The things I was good at, I wanted to be very good at. The things I was bad at, I either never got anywhere or eventually I didn't have to do them anymore. Like, I don't have to play sports anymore because my PE days are long gone. Um, so yeah, and my parents, I think, were both high achievers in their own field, and you know that my kids are high achievers because you've had Natalie on the show, and we've talked about Angelica a few times. My wife definitely is a high achiever. So yeah, but to me, it's also playing to your strengths and acknowledging your weaknesses. I know people are good at everything, but I'm not one of them, and neither is any one of my family members.
So, in your background from Switzerland, in Zurich area.
Mhm.
So that's a predominantly German-oriented area, right?
Yeah, they speak German, Swiss German dialect, so they learn German in elementary school.
Okay, great. And so this is very, I wouldn't mentally regimented, and it just you're born with it. I mean, it's just, and you grow up in that from day one. Is that there's just a certain way of doing things, and you learn it and master it, and you have. So linguistics is a science, and don't have that uh, achievement in my blood. I have what you see is what you get. You know, I'm
Mhm.
TV host, I think, from watching TV since I was like born. Not sure, but and not just Gene Autry and Roy Rogers and cowboy movies, but I love Lucy and Ed Sullivan, you know, and then the game shows and Huntley Brinkley News and all that. So I uh, got pretty used to learning how to be in front of a camera by
Yeah.
watching what others are doing, and very
Mhm.
professionally, of course, because the TV didn't show minor leagues; they were all major leagues.
Right. Right.
Hey, here comes Rigo from Mexico City. I'm glad he's on it. Good. Hello, hola, Rigo.
Hi, Rico.
Hi, Rico. How are you?
Good to see
Glad
you
to
Hello.
see you
again.
again.
Hi guys.
Hi guys. Hola.
Hola.
Yeah. See. Okay. Everybody get that linguistic thing. Hola.
Hola.
Okay. We have our note takers all in place now, and very
Both of them.
possibly we'll be joined. Itchy nose. Um, we'll be joined by Taj or Turge. What's her name? I can't remember. We've never met. It was an introduction. Um, so, topic today is high achievers. What are they? And we're just going through definition. I was reading something from Harvard Business about what uh, about what this professor calls it. I'll just repeat it real quick. A high achiever is someone who is very successful in their work or studies, usually as a result of their own efforts. They're willing to go the extra mile to make things happen. So this
There's
also
something missing here. Sorry to interrupt you, but talent.
talent.
Yeah, as a result of their efforts. That's kind of what I was talking about, right? I could put in as much effort as I wanted to. I can't read music, which has something to do with the fact that I don't play an instrument. So I had to, in seventh and eighth grade, I had to learn how to read music, which is completely abstract to me because I don't play an instrument. There was plenty of effort. There was zero talent. I got a D minus in that exam. Yeah, I mean, it has to be combined, otherwise it doesn't work.
So my mother said I ought to take piano lessons, and I really didn't like it. But the piano teacher was this guy. He was a professional musician. He was really good, but so I could never do that. I could never make my fingers do that. Um, but at one time, I memorized this opera music called Für Elise, and I don't know why,
Beethoven.
but I liked it, and so having memorized what to do with that, I made it sound good. But I just couldn't stand spending 1 minute at the piano beyond that. But now I wish I had.
Mhm.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
that's what it is.
yeah,
Ed, that kind of reminds me of what you were talking about earlier. You were talking about, being a TV host and seeing all these great TV shows and talent, to your point, Christian, talented people. And what that reminds me of, one of the key things in terms of mentoring high achievers is being that role model, right? And it goes back to what Christian's saying, like, you can only be a role model if you can make it relatable. Because in the case of the piano, you were lucky. You found a piece that really spoke to you and it made it worthwhile.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's what it takes. But if it had just been this super talented piano teacher who was like, he was just born being talented, it wouldn't have spoken to you. It's like too far away. It's got to be a role model, but a role model that isn't out of touch with your capabilities and with what you think you can do. So I just wanted to put a point on your TV talk show and circle back to that for a second.
And your interests, right? I can admire somebody who is great at astrophysics, but it doesn't relate to me. I'm not that interested in it. I can appreciate on an abstract level how brilliant this person is and how great in their field they are, but it's abstract.
Right. It doesn't inspire you to want to be an astrophysicist.
No, it's completely
exactly.
it's completely abstract. And and I thought a lot about, people that I admire and what do I admire them for? And the answer is always exactly what you said, Kim. It's somebody who has achieved something that I think I could achieve. And I admire that person for already being there, for already having achieved it. That's relatable.
So one of the other things that I compensated for was overcoming a stutter. I know you don't see that now, thankfully, but I mentioned that in a previous show, I think once, and how the high school football coach took me aside and taught me how to get rid of that. And to this day, though, I sometimes have a twisted tongue and I can't get words put together. But generally, I've been fortunate to achieve that. And here I am doing all this. This is like a therapy for me, that I can do it and I'm going to do it and I like to do it. And I'm now doubling down, actually increasing the volume, the number of shows, and stepping out into previously unknown to me waters by going beyond the world of talent mobility. And as you see, we're doing this show now. Okay. So
Ed, I have a question for you, because I don't think I saw the one where you talked about the football coach who helped you. So that's a really important mentor, and what did he see in you? I mean, he had to have seen something, right, that said, this person is worth it to help develop them. Like, what happened that you developed that relationship?
So this was when I was a freshman in high school, Brookline High School, which is a superior public school in the Boston area.
I lived in Brookline. Exactly.
Yeah. So it was a study hall that he pulled me out of. And I didn't really know the guy. I knew of him because he was a football coach and the team was good. So he says, so tell me about your dad. Okay. So my dad's had a stutter. And I don't know why. Frankly, to this day, I don't know why or how. And I grew up around that. And so I told the coach that. So the coach is also a math teacher, and he was my algebra teacher. And I did well in that. Not a high achiever, but I did well. I got B's. And he says, well, what does your dad do for a living? And I talked about it, but I remember this clearly. I didn't stutter when I was saying that. And then he says, oh, do you like sports? So yeah, I love baseball, the Red Sox, and look at the sports page every day. Said, okay. So he reached behind, he pulled out the Boston Globe sports page, and he says, read it. Just pick an article and read it to me. And I'm not going to tell you not to stutter, but try not to stutter. This is a big guy, and I wasn't as put together as I am today at this age. And I had pimples, and he says, "What do you have pimples for? You know, what's going on? And why are you stuttering? And are you tired of the girls laughing at you or not talking to you at all?"
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. He says, "I need to achieve fixing this so that I could win, you know." And the competitiveness came. And he says, you have to go to the library and take out a couple of baseball books, Life of Ted Williams, or, just any book, and read it out loud at home. Shut the door. And so we spent this study hall. This is not the first time. It was like the second or third time we had met up down the hall in an empty classroom. And we just read up the sports page. And he says, you have to concentrate on the PR or the CR or the PL, that kind of combination of letters. And try singing the words, put a tune, doesn't matter what tune. And you have to achieve this. You need to really want to do it. And it worked.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing that.
Yeah, thanks. I mean, he picked you up, right? He picked you up with the sports. He picked you up with the girls. He picked you up with singing instead of saying. I mean, there were all these things that this guy did right. So I'm glad it worked, but I'm also not that surprised it worked because he did all the right things that we've just been talking about. He didn't make you do something that you had no relationship with, that you didn't know how to relate to. I'm sure you could relate to sports and girls from what you just said.
Yeah.
Rigo, truth or consequences? Tell us something about you.
I mean, it's interesting how talking louder in front of yourself really helps. That's what I do the last time that I did that was when I was preparing myself for speaking in front of 100 people. So what I was doing I was recording myself, and then I was watching the recordings. But at some point, that didn't help me because I was getting more and more nervous. So what I just did, I just stand up in front of a mirror, and I just hear my own voice. That's what I needed to do. Just hear my own voice, hear my own feelings, and then the magic came, and I was able to speak in front of those guys. But yeah, that's a very good technique, I think. To
Yeah.
speak in front of a mirror
Kim, from your Hollywood days, uh, tell us about the people, the actors, or the voice coaches that you knew. Was there something special to them, or were they all like the football coach?
Yeah, I think that the best voice coaches, let's go start with that. Somehow they have this ability to make you visualize. And it's a little bit like what Rigo was talking about, for him, he needed to hear his voice. But if you can get people, and it doesn't matter whether it's about speaking or, in a large group or just talking to one other person, but we all know that you can't be successful if you can't command the language, right? But somehow they figured that out for each person, similar to the football coach, as Christian was pointing out. And the other thing that they were brilliant at is people that are really excited about a topic
Mhm.
can go on and on and on about this topic, and they're thrilled with their little talk, and everyone else is like, oh my God, please save me. They helped people understand what was important and what wasn't. And again, whether it's speaking or working on a project, or whether it's a critical thinking skill that you need to develop, that they were very good at developing. Now, changing to actors. Actors are really interesting. And of course, not every actor is the same. But generally speaking, there's like this actor personality, which is they're absolutely intoxicating to talk with for about 5 to 10 minutes, and then they're kind of done because they're playing a role, right? And a lot of actors are really shy. I mean, they truly are introverts, which is very odd, it seems, but that's the case. So they have this, they have to put on their face to act or to, meet a new person or that kind of thing. And so that's their process. And that's another point, is that people need to develop their processes. What's going to work for them to do their best?
So the imposter syndrome comes in. I have had a young woman from Europe, Mahibi, and you know her.
Yes.
And she teaches mainly women about how to get rid of the imposter, the fear of, or not fitting in, or whatever. Kim, you understand that a lot more than I do, but I learned from watching. I conducted the interview, but I was watching what she was doing, and then I see her subsequent PR across LinkedIn when she's speaking out to, and she's targeting ladies about being her, HER, another person. And that's almost the same thing as what I think you were just saying about the actors who are trained in what does the role need from my face, from my tone, from my posture or use of hands or not use of hands. And when 5 or 10 minutes, that's the length of their speech, talking, a script, right? As opposed to winging it. They'd be probably really uncomfortable with winging it. Yes, Christian.
So the word persona, which is Latin, derives from the Greek word for mask. And this is because in Greek theater, the actors all wore masks. That's how, if you were in the audience, that's how you recognized who they were, because the masks would show, the features would be exaggerated.
That's really a good point.
And that's how you would recognize who they were, what role they played, whether they were old, whether they were young. And if you look that up, or if you see these masks in a museum, which I've had the opportunity to do that, it becomes pretty clear how artificial that was as a concept. So they were literally putting something over or on their head that turned them into not just different people, but almost like caricatures. Think less of a modern concept of an actor, but more of a clown, or older versions of commedia dell'arte, something like that, where you're typecast.
Right.
That's what we're dealing with here.
It's interesting. It's like dumbing it down, which is the equivalent of like a laugh track, right? Like,
Yeah,
tell me
that's
how
a great
I'm supposed to be feeling
example.
right now. What am I
Yeah.
supposed to be experiencing?
Right. And dumbing it down sounds a little negative, but what it does is really, it makes it more accessible. If you're in a Greek theater, they of course no microphones, right? So the acoustics is because of the architecture, and there's no screens, so what you can see from afar is anything that's exaggerated. Same with commedia dell'arte, makeup. Same with, Japanese theater, Chinese theater. It's always the same thing. It has to be exaggerated so that people can see it from afar.
So I want to bring something up, and this is not political, but of course, at the season, and at this point in time, everything is. Kamala recently has gone overboard trying to be visible as a person, and this media blitz that she's been on the past week or so, and mainly, as I understand it, she's been on shows that appeal to not at the same time, but women, older women, and then young men. All the different shows were targeted because of their audience reach. Generally, each one has a different audience, although not exclusive. And she's trying to convey an image of being a real person and caring by positioning herself in these different demographics. She's trying to relate to that demographic. And so somebody has told her, whether it's Steven Spielberg or somebody else, that she's got to come across differently to reach different strata. And that's what's, I hope it works, But what I've read is that former President Trump has a pull on women. And so not all the women out there, and there's more women voters than if they all vote, than there are men. And if more women vote for Kamala, she's going to win because it's just more. So I'm talking too much, Kim. I want you to reiterate what I've just said, but from your view. And how is this portrayal of being human rather than presidential?
Yeah.
How's that coming across to you?
Yeah. No, that's great, Ed.
Thank you.
So I think, what you're saying kind of goes back to what we were talking about earlier is, finding that connection, finding that thing that hits you hard enough that you say, and whether it's political or whether it's developing your own career, that you say, I can relate. This person understands me. I trust this person. And there's a little bit when we take it away from the political and go into the employment side, one of the things as a mentee is if you develop that kind of bond with your mentor, some of it is like you want them to be proud of you too. So it gives you an extra incentive to push yourself. But I've put together plenty of mentoring programs for high potential employees in a variety of different companies. And the hardest part is the match, right? It's so difficult because, and the last program that I put together, Bless AI, we used AI. It's still, I don't think it helped more than, I think it helped less actually. Because it is something human, to your point of like that human. And so the way that we did that was we interviewed the mentors to get a better sense of them. So that we could hopefully match them up with the person that it was going to stick.
Rigo, does this make sense to you?
Yeah, no, I have been mentored from, I guess that was like 5 years ago, and yeah, it's a 50-50% process. It's matching the personality of the mentee, but also the mentor has to match at some point because there is, this kind of way of thinking that the mentor is always like, if he has to learn, he has to ask me. I'm just here to share my knowledge because I am the one who knows. But this is not like correct at all. It has to be like a balance and at some point synchronize both. But it takes time, and certainly not everybody's ready for being a mentee or for being a mentor. But yeah, I do like be mentor, but and I do like to be mentee, but perhaps I don't take the time. I always think I am busy, but it certainly helps to achieve things. Yeah.
So I've got this from Harvard Business School. The professor is saying high achievers are comfortable with failure. Some people fear failing while others fear succeeding. High achievers fear not trying
Mhm.
more than they fear failing. That's fascinating to me. What do you think, Christian?
I think that that's by and large true if and only if you're in a field where you have some successes, um, where you can see the failure as an opportunity to learn something. Again, has to be relatable, right? If I'm failing at, say, ballroom dancing, which I did horribly, that doesn't mean that now I have the incentive to become a great ballroom dancer. It means that I don't dance. It's that simple. It's something that I don't need in my life, so I'm not going there anymore. But if it's going back to college, for instance, getting a B plus instead of an A, what do I need to do to get that A next time? That's learning from failure is too strong of a word, but that's learning from not having all the success you wanted to have. Let's put it that way. That's figuring out what's missing and then, striving to achieve that. Um, and I think the idea that you can just, as a high achiever, just not be somewhat hurt internally by failing, I think that's flawed. A high achiever would care, and if a high achiever cares, then I can't see how they would just go, oh well, that business completely failed, I'm bankrupt, yippee, an opportunity to learn. Doesn't work that way. People care, they're passionate about what they do if they're high achievers.
Yeah, I agree with Christian, and I don't agree with the statement
Mm,
about that, except that, and this moves us to a different area that is a critical piece of high achievers, is resilience.
mhm.
Turning the
Yes.
failure, being able to, take adversity and looking for ways to get around it. But it doesn't mean, that it isn't incredibly painful to fail and that they're going to work that much harder to figure out how to turn that into a success. So in a simplistic way, I guess that is accurate, right? That they're not afraid of failure, but in stark reality, they're super afraid of failure. They're just going to work
Yes.
hard to get around it and change it to a positive. And
Because
see
they
what
would be
work on it.
perfectionists, right? In their field, they would be perfectionists. In my example, if I'm good at something, I would strive to be as good as possible. I would be a perfectionist. Again, am I a perfectionist as a ballroom dancer? Hell no. I'm not good at it. So, and I'm not resilient. I use my resilience where it makes sense to me. I'm not going to, prove a Harvard Business School point by trying to become a better ballroom dancer. That makes no sense. So, I think that we're kind of talking about the same thing, but the Harvard Business School quote leaves out the premise, which is the passion, the wanting to be good at what you feel you're talented to be good at, and then striving to be the best you can be in that field.
So
And other fields you don't
yeah.
care about.
So the article goes on. high achievers, and this is a woman, a professor at Harvard Business School, reinforce your foundations. In other words, like Kobe Bryant, she has the example of basketball star Kobe Bryant, the great shooter, high achiever for sure. He always went to the gym and shot baskets.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this guy is a champ, yet he's always reinforcing, to use her words, the foundations of his high achievement. She says, despite having done a task or routine countless times, high achievers, such as Kobe Bryant, still work on the basic skills foundational to their current and future success. Becoming a lifelong learner, high achievers learn through discussion, and this is my sweet spot here. I have to read this. High achievers learn through discussions with mentors, colleagues, peers, and mentees, coupled with reading, observing others, watching videos, and listening to podcasts.
There you
And
go.
here we are.
Your nourishment for us.
Yeah, yes.
Thank you for being there, audience. So how do you mentor a high achiever? Because that's, I mean, you have been in that kind of position, Kim, at the nutrition company as well as the Academy Awards, Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences, and others. So how did you mentor through discussions? Just have conversations.
Yeah. Well, there's really two ways. So as I said a few minutes ago, like I did set up formal mentoring programs company-wide so that you could, have lots of people mentoring other people formally. And when I did that, we did a lot of things to facilitate that, matching them, and then each month sending out a suggestion of what they might want to talk about for a topic, which I didn't care if they talked about it at all. It was more just to, a helpful thing. And then once a month, no, once every other month, I think we would have sessions that were, to your point earlier, foundational building blocks of being in leadership and being a good leader and mentor yourself. So that's the more formal programs. And then in terms of individually, it's really starts with that foundation of trust, right? Building that relationship. So initially it's about, having coffee, or just if it's a global situation where you have to be on video, talking about your family, their family, being open and vulnerable.
Mhm.
And then you can't get away from setting clear goals. Now, what do they want out of it? They need to come into something
Mhm.
with a clear goal of what they want out of it. And maybe they already know, or maybe the two of you need to talk it through. So then, then you tailor that mentorship relationship based on those goals. And just like Rigo was saying, I always find as a mentor that I get at least as much, generally more, from that relationship in terms of learning, what's going on and new things. But one of the key things that I offer to mentees, regardless of what their goals are, is, facilitating their network, because I've been around a while, I know a lot of people, right? And so figuring out who to connect them with that would also be helpful to them. And then kind of the normal things of leadership, right? Celebrating achievements, acknowledging milestones, having them think about, how they can push themselves, resilience, all those kinds of things. So those, and going back to what I said about high achievers too, is really making sure that you don't just talk about projects, right? It's got to be about values. It's got to be about emotional awareness, having empathy for others, and also, like you had talked about earlier, that continual learning.
So tell us about your work. You've become involved with another entrepreneur?
Yeah, thank you for asking. Yeah, so I, as I say every time, because that's what my brand is P3, people, performance, and profit. People are the center. And then if you focus on the people, the performance will rise, and so will the profit. And so my focus has always been more on the organizational development side, the strategic overall HR, as well as talent management. And my partner of Pro Partners is really focused on, the talent acquisition side of things. And it's been really great from a standpoint of one of the things that we partner on quite a bit is a lot of times, people who are coming to a new company, executives, right? I shouldn't say a lot of time, most times. Executives don't fail because they don't know their job. It's because they haven't integrated in the company with the other people. And so one of the things that I offer, and which is why having this relationship with a TA expert, is that new hire coaching for executives, of helping that to integrate within the organization in their first 30, 60, 90 days, depending on what makes sense. And I've really seen so much more of a success rate by, for these new hires, because executives fail 70% from who are coming from outside of the company, fail at least 75% of the time within the first year. And it's so incredibly expensive. So if you tack on, just this 1, 2, or 3 months of integration with someone that's familiar with the company, but is not part of the company, right? So that they don't feel like they have to be careful about what they say and can ask direct questions. We've seen success rate where the people I've coached, only one wasn't successful within that year. So that's one of the things that
Yeah.
partnership has developed.
So Christian, how's your job pursuit going?
Oh, sorry, I wanted to say something
Oh,
else
yeah,
first.
sure.
What Kim just says explains why this cannot be project-based. If it were project-based, the whole premise wouldn't work. It's about integrating into an organization, and it may have very little to do with the project, depending on how the project is defined. But even if it's not a new hire, what you would want is for somebody to learn certain skills, develop certain traits, find out something about themselves. None of it is directly related to a project. This is something that is for a good while, if not for life, right? And Ed, you gave a beautiful example just at the beginning of this show, remembering that coach. I'm sure that was a while back, but here's that coach. And we all that listen to this have an idea of what this coach did and what he looked like and how he spoke. And he's immortal that way. And that's really what I'm talking about. When I talk about mentorship, you want something that maybe somebody remembers decades later about what you said.
So when I was a freshman in high school, that was 1960.
Okay, do the math then.
Give you
There
an
you go.
idea. Yeah.
Yeah. Here he is, 2024. Here is being talked about.
Yeah, the power of an educator. A single
Mhm.
teacher can affect
Wow.
so many
That's
lives.
all I got. Wow. So, Rigo, what are you going to do tomorrow?
Tomorrow, we have a birthday party with
Oh,
my son. He's 7 years old, so
Well,
that's
congratulations,
nice.
Rico's son. Yeah, great.
yeah, it's gonna be fun. Waiting like 3 hours until he finished to play with his mates. But yeah,
Mhm.
I enjoy it.
Oh, that's great. Good.
Hey,
Thanks for
Rico,
being,
maybe you can, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead, Ed.
no, I'm just going to end and say thanks for being on the show again.
Oh, yeah, no, I was just gonna say, Rico, I'm planning a trip to Mexico City in February, so you'll have to mentor me in terms of Mexico City soon.
Absolutely, by all means,
Okay, sounds
come
good.
with me. Yeah.
Well, speaking about Mexico City, I want to produce another live conference here. It's been a long time. I think I mentioned that Ernst & Young in Palenque was my host for a couple of times, actually 3 conferences. And AIG was the big insurance company, was my main sponsor. Um, so it's been a long time. It was pre-COVID. It's probably 5 or 6 years at least going back. Time to come back. And we'll get Stephen to help us too. Yeah. Okay, so I was asking you, Christian, about your job pursuit.
Yes.
Has your experience, and I don't need anything from you, but has your experience not only on my show but on Ben's and other shows, has that, I hope it's been helpful to you.
Yes, it has. Not in a direct sense that, somebody would approach me and say, "Hey, Christian, here's a job," because it doesn't work that way. But it has helped me to, in my reflection about myself, about what I want to do next. There's a lot of mentors and role models out of this, and you're one of them, Ed. It helps just digest everything. And then in terms of a real opportunity, it's not in my direct field, but through Melissa Poots, I got an AI project, and that was in May, and I'm still working with these people and making money with these people. So I'm not, that unemployed really. I actually work quite a bit and I get compensated for it. But thank you for asking. But yes, it has helped tremendously. And all these discussions and conversations I've had here on the show with other people I met through this show and other shows, all of this helps to really accelerate my personal growth in a very, very rapid way. It's fantastic. And
Keep
thank
it
you.
going. Keep it going.
I
So,
will.
on just so you know, a little bit of news. We did a show about a month ago with some guests from Tokyo and Kobe, Japan, and they're both coming back. And that show is going to be on Tuesday next, October 15, starting 5 p.m. California time, which will be in Tokyo the next morning, 9 a.m. And we want to grow the audience. Rigo, please consider that. I'll send you the invite. Kim, I certainly welcome you if you have any interest in talking with people from Tokyo. Or I'm also trying to fill slots with people in Singapore and Hong Kong, Seoul, Taipei, Manila,
Nice.
and Australia. So
What's the topic?
international business relations,
Oh, okay.
just meet and greet
Yeah, no, that sounds great.
and anything else that comes up.
Right.
Yeah,
You're up
but
and down.
the theme of this series, which I'm going to take around the world, is virtually and maybe in person, if we get to Mexico City and elsewhere, is how to develop international business relations and using this show and other topics related. Okay, so more about that later. I'll send out info.
I'm available if you want to send me an invite, Ed.
Absolutely. You'll all get it. Thank you very much for being on Talk Show. I've learned from you guys.
Thank you, Ed. Thanks, Kim. Great seeing you. Great seeing you, Rico.
Nice to meet you.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye,
you.
buddy.
Be well.
Bye-bye.
Too.
Bye.
Bye.